Hi there, this is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 401 Games, and this week's Smorgasboard game is Adventure Mart, published by Hub Games, who also published the very good and original game Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr. And it was this game, Adventure Mart, was designed by Sam Taylor, and it was developed by a relatively new three-person collective that call themselves Digisprite. And despite the distinctly Japanese graphical look of the game, Hub Games is UK-based and Digisprite is from Scotland. Adventure Mart is a deck builder with a couple of interesting twists, so let's take a look in the box and see if Adventure Mart is for you. In Adventure Mart, 2 to 4 players play rival franchisees of a 7-Eleven style convenience store empire set in a fantasy limbo which appears whenever adventurers want it, and they're vying to have the most net worth, i.e. victory points, after 5 game days. Each day starts with players refilling the depot area with new stock, fixtures, and staff from the respective decks. Then new customers line up face down, equal to the number of players plus 1. Then the player holding the initiative tile, who will be the player who made the last sale on the previous turn, turns over the next daily bulletin. So out of a deck, 5 are dealt out randomly at the beginning of the game, and they act like event cards, changing the rules of the game for that day. Then trading hours begin. So players go around the table taking actions, starting with the player with the initiative token, until all customers have been served. The 3 possible actions are spending gold to buy stock or fixtures or staff, triggering a use effect on one of your cards, which I'll talk about in a sec, or starting a sale. So when you buy new stock, it goes into your hand, which means that you'll be able to use it later that round. That is the same game day. When you buy a fixture or a staff member, it goes face up in front of you. I'll just put it here to the side so you can see it, where you can start using it right away. If the staff member you hire has an on-call symbol on it, then you can actually use their use power right when you hire them. Now, sometimes when you use their use power, you have to flip the card over. Come on, focus there. You have to flip it over, which means it's not usable until the next day. But other powers are ongoing, or they trigger later in the turn. Now, there's no limit to your hand size on your turn, so the more stock cards you have, the more actions you can take. But you can only have a maximum of 4 fixtures and or staff, a total of 4 in any combination. So you can also, if you don't like what's face up there, you can spend 4 coins, choose one of the face up cards, and toss it into the abyss, and blindly buy the top card, which can sometimes be an advantage because it's more expensive than 4 normally. However, unlike most games, when a card is bought, it's not replenished. So until the end of the day, when all the cards are gone, you're not going to be able to buy anything. So if you snooze, you lose. Using a card effect is pretty self-explanatory, but like I said, the only actions that you can trigger during the day are the ones that are called use. Other actions have other color-coded trigger words like react, or some cards only trigger at the end of the game for review, for bonus points, and some cards only trigger when you sell goods. Now, if you want to initiate a sale, you grab the initiative token and you start an auction. And you can start the bidding, which is done in terms of quality stars. Now, the first thing you do is you turn over one of the adventurer cards. So here's a typical adventurer card. This is an apprentice. They belong to the Mage Guild. They like only magical items, so every piece of stock belongs to one of 3 categories, and they have 5 gold to spend. Now, this apprentice has no other actions or triggers that go off. But other cards, other adventurers, when you turn them over, for instance, when Luna the Sorceress Supreme is turned over, when it's revealed, everyone gets to draw 2 cards from their stock, that is their draw pile. So that can change things. And you'll also notice that Luna really likes magical items and also likes exotic items. This means that when you bid, you're bidding cards out of your hand, and in the case of the apprentice, you can only offer up magical items. And in this case, since there's 1 star there, your bid would be 1. Now, if you had the initiative token, your bid would be 2 because the initiative token automatically gives you a star. You can actually start with just the initiative token if you want. However, for Luna Sorceress Supreme, she likes magical items so much that you double the number of stars on your blue magic items. So this Power Stone would be worth 2 stars. So the player who starts the bidding makes an offer. The player clockwise to them makes their offer, which has to be higher. Or they can pass, taking their offer back into their hands. Now, some cards, as I said, have some... So for instance, this staff member allows you to choose a stock type, and then from now on, all the stock you are selling becomes that type. So that's pretty powerful because now all of a sudden, for instance, in the case of the apprentice, now you can use any card as a blue card. At some point, everyone is going to drop out except for the highest bidder. At that point, they will earn an amount of gold equal to either how much gold that customer has, or the total sale value of all the goods that they've offered, whichever is less. So this is the main way to make gold, and this makes for some very interesting decisions because you want to kind of, it incentivizes you to offer as close to this value as possible. If you offer up too much, you're still only going to get $5. And if you only offer 1, you're only going to get 1. So it makes for some very interesting bidding. Now, just like the other cards in the depot, customer cards are not refreshed. So once all customers have been sold to, and if you sell to a customer, they join your invoice pile and they stay there till the end of the game because some of them have end game rewards. For instance, here, oh no, this is a react. So here, in this case, if you sell to this Vanguard, you gain this fighter's token, which is not only worth a star, well, sorry, it is worth a star when you are selling to fighters later on in the game. So that happens to give you a bonus during the game. Other customers give you bonuses at the end of the game based on things like, and you may have noticed this, items belong to different companies. So some cards might reward you for selling Black Forest items. Sorry, some customers might reward you for Black Forest items. Anyway, Once customers are gone, everyone gets one more action, including the player who made the last sale and therefore grabbed the initiative token, and then stores close for the day. Then players can keep one card in hand if they want. Everything else goes into their restock pile, which is their discard, and then they draw back up to 5. Even though there's no hand limit during the turn, you draw back up to 5 at the end of the turn. Any fixtures or staff that have been used are flipped back over to be used the next day, but for staff, you have to pay them if you want to keep them for the following day. And that leads to some interesting decisions, especially if you don't have enough money. Well, there's no decision. You're going to have to let these guys go, and they go into the abyss. How poetic. Finally, any player or players who have the quietest store, in other words, the players who have the least total among customers, they get a little help from HQ. It's a balancing effect in the game. They basically either get a free card from the middle or they get 3 gold. And if it's the first through the 4th turn, you move along to the next turn. If it's the end of the 5th turn, you then go on to calculate the scores, which is the sum of however much gold you've accumulated. The buy values, not the selling values, but the buy values of any stock or fixtures, not for your staff, and any endgame bonuses from customers or other cards. The winner gets to manage another store. The others, according to the rules, get sent to the abyss for additional training. So, is Adventure Mart for you? Well, in terms of theme, it's not unique. There are other games where you run a magical store, including last year's hit Bargain Quest from Renegade Games. Even in terms of store running games with deck building, there was a game in 2018 called Pasaraya that got there first. Even though it's not a magical store, it's just a regular store. But Pasaraya didn't really get a wide release, and the way that Adventure Mart uses auction mechanics for customer sales mixed in with the deck building is original. So in the end, I think it is, a fresh take on things in terms of its mix of theme and mechanics. The way everything works thematically in the game is very well done. It makes the game easy to learn and remember what to do. And as deck builders go, it's interesting because you really only go through your deck. Well, depending on which cards you buy, you're not even going to go through your deck 5 times, because even on the first round, you're only drawing 5 of your first 10 cards, and already you're going to be buying cards to put in. So instead of the usual kind of thinning your deck to make it efficient so you can cycle through it, Adventure Mart is more about tactically trying to take the best advantage of the situation on the table at any given moment. The first turn isn't all that interesting in itself, but it's really important in terms of setting yourself up for your long-term path to victory. Later on turns really do give you some interesting choices on how to use your stock and whether to rehire your staff or let them go and hire new people on. The artwork is very cute, of course, and the rules are well done with a FAQ at the end. The only problem, there was only one thing in the rules, which was it didn't explicitly state whether you could pass instead of taking an action during the day. It's implied that you can't, so that if you really don't want to buy anything, then you have to start an auction, which makes sense. It sort of acts as a sand timer, but that means you really have to make sure that you're set up. Otherwise, you'll be starting auctions and then other players will be benefiting from them. All in all, if you like the idea of running your own little Fantasy 7-Eleven and you like deck builders with cute artwork and you like games that are interactive but not like in your face take that, then Adventure Mart is probably worth taking a look. So click on the link below to order your copy of Adventure Mart. This is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 41games.ca. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.